The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone. On behalf of the World Health Organization Center for Aging and Life Course and the International Federation on Aging, I'd like to welcome you to the 8th in a series of webinars on age-friendly environments. Today's webinar is entitled Age-Friendly Europe, Good Practices and Next Steps, and will feature presentations by Dr. Manfred Huber and Ms. Anne-Marie Raffos. Manfred Huber joined the World Health Organization in 2009, where he provides advice to member states in Europe on health and social care reform for healthy aging, better coordination of care, long-term care, disability, and rehabilitation. Prior to this, he has been Director of Health and Care with the European Center for Social Welfare Policy and Research in Vienna. Moreover, he worked for 10 years with the OECD in Paris, where he was in charge of aging and health indicators and health accounting. Manfred Huber is the author of a number of books on health and social services for aging populations. He has over 25 years of experience with international comparisons of health and social policy. Manfred Huber graduated from the University of Munich with a Master of Science in Mathematics and holds a PhD in Economics. Our second presenter is Anne-Marie Raffos. Anne-Marie is a Special Advisor in the Department for Aging, Health and Work in the city of Oslo. She has a BA from the University of Bergen and a Master of International Business, International Relations from the University of Sydney. She has a high level of knowledge on health politics at the Nordic, European, and international level, and good networks in international organizations relevant for the healthcare sector. Her career involves several years of experiences working with EU politics. 2 secondments in Brussels have helped build up good knowledge of the political processes in the EU, in particular with regard to healthcare policy development and higher education. She is currently responsible for the Oslo Age-Friendly Program and second-term chair of the Working Group on Urban Aging in Eurocities. She has also completed a secondment at the WHO in Geneva, where she was working in the Department for Aging and Life Course with the Global Network of Age-Friendly Cities and Communities. On behalf of the IFA, I would like to thank both presenters for being with us today, and to invite all participants to ask questions via the question tab of GoToWebinars, and questions will be answered at the end of the webinar. Should your question not be answered, I'd like to invite you to follow up with the IFA via the contact information that will be sent out after the webinar. And now I'd like to introduce Manfred Huber.
Hello, everybody, and thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very much look forward to sharing with you some latest developments on age-friendly environments in Europe. You will see my presentation is probably a bit richer than what I will cover in my presentation, but I thought it might come handy for you to take some more background home, and I understand the presentation will be made available to you later. Now, when we talk about aging in Europe, first, let's not forget what the WHO regional office here for Europe in Copenhagen covers is very much a big European region. It has 53 member states, and it reaches out even until some Central Asian countries. Now, what you see here, these bubbles, is the absolute numbers of older people. So you see where do they live in Europe currently? Do they live in urban environments or in rurals? The further they are away up from the line, the faster aging has been, defined on the increase of the ratio of those that are 65 and older. And you see specifically some challenges for rural areas where you have a number of country groups where you have had both aging and an overall decline of population. Now, when we say aging and talk about 65+ people, it's certainly somehow misleading. People at that age usually do not consider themselves old, and for very good reasons. Here you see again the big variations in our region. And what you see is both overall the long line, the life expectancy and the differences here from France to the Republic of Moldova. But then you see the dark line actually where it ends. It gives you the age where people still have 15 years of average life expectancy ahead of them. And I think somehow this also corresponds to how people see themselves. So if you still can expect to have a substantial part of your life ahead of you, you don't consider yourself old. And healthy aging is all about really then activating this remaining life that you have before us to make this a positive experience, healthy and in good well-being. And to this end, the WHO has worked with member states on regional action plans. We have one for Europe and then also a global action plan identifying priority areas where we work together with member states. And you see here, it's about aligning, of course, health systems. They are not always doing a very good job for older people. Long-term care systems, they are not really systems in many countries. And you see the third pillar, and this is what I will talk today, is about the healthy environments. Now, when we talk about healthy environments, it's a very broad concept. It's in fact a environment that fosters healthy and active aging, and that in turn has been defined as the process of developing and maintaining function and ability that enables well-being in old age. And here you see two different concepts. One is the intrinsic capacity. We all know we will be faced maybe with some decline of what we can do physically we may have different chronic conditions, even if they can be contained. But on the other side, we have functional ability. And this is what enables people to still do what they have reason to value. And I think this is a very positive view that you find in this latest framework of WHO on aging. We had previous ones, but I think it is worth to look at the latest one from 2005, and you have it here. You see the lines on and the possibly increasing gap over age between what you could do with appropriate policies, how you could empower people to maximize their well-being. And again, the actions are in three pillars, and one is the environment. And it's very important. This is a gap that you also see when you compare the classical age ratios, which give these strongly growing red lines here for different parts of our region. But on the other side, if you look at what is the part of the population that still has 15 years to live compared to the rest of the population, then you see this is a quite less dramatic increase. But of course, we want to enable all these people that correspond to this lower line. Now, the age-friendly environment movement has been growing out of and be supported by the work we have done for many years with networks of healthy cities. So aging has for long been one of the main concerns on local policies. So it was basically cities voting to work with us on these topics. And we are just celebrating the 600th city in what is a specific specialized network, which is the network of age-friendly cities and communities. And how important this topic is you see it in your everyday life, and it's actually a good exercise to look around, see the examples. And this was when I was on my way taking the train to a conference, and I wanted to do some last-minute changes on a presentation sitting on this bench, but I couldn't. You cannot sit on this bench at any age. Now, this guidance was out now for more than 10 years from WHO, and with the support of the European Union, we had a chance to do a new synthesis of recent practice and guidance. Now, if you have worked with previous WHO frameworks, you know probably these 8 petals, 8 domains of age-friendly action that has been developed with a number of cities around the globe, but also very much been influenced by work originally in Canada. And so we have, for this project, we have kept these domains. And what we did is that we were mapping both the available evidence from action plans. So we had a large collection of action plans from cities and communities, and we looked, so what are the actions they are doing? How can we make sense of it? How can we cluster them into these domains? And then what is the supporting literature? We have a strongly growing literature. It's almost exponentially covering various domains. And we both gathered the basic information about what are policy actions that have been done, and then how to make it happen, which is a tool for local policymakers on putting the whole process in motion. And I will talk both, give you only few, due to the time, only few examples, both on the what and the how. And actually I will start with the how, because already in how you set up actions for age-friendly environments, you can learn a lot of what is good practice in doing so. Now, what you see here is a snapshot of the policy tool. You see, you have a classical kind of management cycle between engaging, understanding, planning, acting, implementing, and evaluating. Now, few people do it in this order, but what we have seen and discussed with cities is that behind each of these points that are under these 4 main headings, you can do a self-assessment and think, well, is this something we are addressing? How do we think? How strong are we in these points? Could we do better? And if we look back over time, what has helped us to make our action sustainable, sell it to politicians over time, or where did we lose momentum? And out as a core of the good practice are some core principles that are now very widely recognized by cities, that these are essentials for success. And of course, the participation of older people is very high on the agenda. The challenges on actually the equity, whom do we reach? Do we reach the happy, healthy middle class, aging happily? How do we reach out to others? Then intersectoral collaboration. And here, I think we will hear a lot from the Oslo example. Life course approaches. Also, when we talk about age-friendly environments, we do not want to create new silos. So we want, basically aging starts from birth. And increasingly also we see that also much of the age-friendly environments has been growing bottom up as movement. We also see that it's recognized by higher government levels. And I think this is one of the good practice that we see, that some countries, an example is Finland or France and others, are picking up the main principles and enshrine them into national policy papers, action plans, so that they define in general a role for different levels of governments, how they can support. Now, just very few examples. One is co-production, reaching out to older people. Manchester does it in various ways. Here you see people very concretely going through their neighborhoods, identifying points where there can be improvement, where there are points where they feel they can gather, have social life, or where there are points where there are obstacles to social action. Now, it's also interesting by looking at good practice to see basically that you can think about parallel tracks. One, government-led top-down, and at the end we need high-level political commitment, if possible, in a city. And on the other side, people-led bottom-up approach. And you can see how the two come together. And an example where political leadership came more from the top and could be instrumental for change is a region of 21 cities in Bashkortostan in the Russian Federation, where central law had been defined, a hierarchy of responsibilities for age-friendly cities in this region, with a common framework for action, accountability, and as many other initiatives do, they also explicitly pick up the 8-domain framework. Now, what is the 8-domain framework? We have just it here, and this goes back on work 10 or 12 years ago, looked at physical environment, social environment, and municipal services. Of course, what we increasingly learn is that all these dimensions interact. An adapted physical environment is also a good social environment. It creates incentives that people come together, meet at places that they like. The services, if you don't have the transport in place to go to the services, this may create barriers for older people. So we have these 8 domains: an outdoor environment, transport, housing, the physical. And I will go briefly through some examples. Now, one good practice is also that we can use this framework for communication. And what you see here is one snapshot, just in one big poster of a city. Here it's a Danish city of Horsens, that mapped what are the highlights of what we are doing, our success stories, our plans around 8 domains. Now, outdoor environments, of course, we know the essentials. We need barrier-free public spaces, support to interactions, and this is not always happening. So we could think, well, are we not all in environments where we go towards universal urban design? This is not a general trend, but look at this picture. This what looks like a bench in a Japanese park. No older people can sit there. Or look at these spikes that again should deter homeless people to camp there. Now, if a person has dementia or an older person has vision problems, I mean, think about the dangers. Now, I think Oslo's common design, universal design problems. We maybe hear something about this. Another good practice example on the outdoor environments is to put on a lens of a person with dementia and to see what would older people prefer. And I also do it myself sometimes. Just one of my tests is going into the airport. How long does it take me to find where the nearest toilet is? So this, how easily is it for me to get lost? And then you see really some of the main challenges, like having very clear signs. Transport and mobility, very obvious targets. Of course, they link then also to social exclusion. For example, you try to reduce the cost and not only the availability. Housing, increasingly there's a concern that much of the housing is not adapted for older people. And one example, one practice example here is specific guidelines that have been developed in another European project, not by WHO, but that has shown how you have to do this in interdisciplinary working groups. And then you also have stories from how it's been implemented in some of the participating cities. For example, city of Győr in Hungary uses that to target specific public support to home adaptation and renovation, for which there is money available. Social participation, many of what we see here in action plans, education, activity, it's often the most popular actions. The other side of social participation is the inclusion aspect. And here one of the examples is city of Udine in Italy, which has over time grown a network of voluntary action called No alla Solitudine, with a managed helpline and reaching out to older people living alone, and then either matching services or company. I will maybe skip some of the remaining. It's also very much, of course, an appetizer that you find if you're interested. These publications on our web pages, and where you find these examples. You also have a big growing source of examples from the web page of colleagues in Geneva of WHO, or from the global network that constantly are collecting practice examples. Again, here's an example of how volunteering can be a very important part of both social inclusion, but also of the services. For example, you can recruit volunteers. Of course, this is a context of Nordic countries where this has a lot of tradition. You can recruit people to become hospital friends for older people longer staying in hospitals, or simply people going and joining those in nursing homes for lunchtime. In many cases themselves older people. Now, on thinking about next steps for the future, of course, I have to skip completely any definitions here about technology. What would be the role of technology? We try to bring some systematization into that, but much of that, to make sense of what is done, is, I think, something still left for the future. And that's my last slide. So the evaluation research is in its infancy. We know a lot about what is done, we know what is popular, we have some success stories, but we are only in the beginning to do real evaluation work. Of course, for real evaluation, you would also need to define probably some targets, some indicator. That's all hard stuff work. We have a indicator guideline from WHO and developed globally. So there are some. We have put a document together for Europe, but putting this in practice is still something for the future. We are discussing right now for new projects to offer more web-based tools, for maybe an app where you can design plans, monitor and following some principles and doing your own thing. Again, I said in the beginning, it's very important that we keep in mind the equity aspects. So do we reduce inequalities with these policy actions, or do we actually target more those that are easier to reach out? So again, how do we reach out to those most in need, those living alone, isolated, older men, without families, as an example? And again, we need to understand the success factors for sustained political commitment and resourcing, because that is where we need to make a business case. And the growing movement in itself makes a business case. And one city can show the examples that other cities can bring to their politicians. And in many cases, this has been a core factor of getting off the ground. So I will stop there and very much look forward to any communication later, questions, and happy to answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Huber. At this point, I'll switch over to Amberi. Just give me 1 second, and then we get from there.
Okay. Yep.
Good.
Can you see my slide?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good afternoon from sunny and warm Oslo. Thank you for the invitation and the introduction. I thought I would start local and then go global, or at least European. And I will share some of the experiences from Oslo, what's happening at national and Nordic level, and then from the European network. I hope that sounds like a good structure. Now, I just wanted to say something about this illustration, because this illustration has been especially designed for us in the Age-Friendly Oslo, and it's really also been approved by older people. They think it's refreshing to be portrayed like this. So just wanted to say that. Now, Oslo joined the Global Network of Age-Friendly Cities and Communities back in 2014. It coincided with a major reform on aging and health that was adopted by the City Council in 2014, and there were many synergies. Approximately 12% of our population is 67 plus. The increase in the older population will really take effect from 2022. So we're in a very good position to prepare. We were the first city in Norway to join, and I worked a lot inside the municipality to raise awareness, and also outside the municipality to encourage other cities and municipalities to join and to establish cross-sectoral collaboration. For us, the WHO network, the guidelines, indicators, and material have been really important tools. It's provided us with a methodology and structure, in particular as to how to engage and work in the other domains outside health and social services. So the first thing we did was a baseline assessment to see what we were already doing, and that gave us an indication of strengths and weaknesses. In terms of political support, in my department alone, we have changed our politician 3 times. So let's see here. Am I struggling with the audio? I'm getting a message here.
No, I can.
Sorry.
I can hear you, Em.
You're okay? Okay, that was just a message on my phone. Sorry about that. So we've changed our politician 3 times. So it's a bit like Monopoly, you know, the game where you have to go back to start and start the process all over again, which can be really frustrating and challenging. But I have to say, in our case, it's actually also been a really great challenge because we've gained more and more support and in time a budget as well. And the really solid factor to help me here is the civic participation, all the input and collaboration with older people. That really makes for strong arguments that politicians cannot ignore. So we've tried many different approaches to engaging older people in Oslo. We have organized several town hall meetings, which you can say a lot about. You know, you can say that, oh, that's only the usual suspects who have their say, and so many people don't speak up. And this is true, of course, but you also do reach many people. And I think that that in itself is very valuable and important. And from our town hall meetings, several people wanted to be more engaged. And so together we set up think tanks that meet on a regular basis. And then we have organized conferences by, for, and with older people. So they have defined absolutely everything, the scope, content, structure, all of it. And we've gotten excellent value and input on all our different domains. We have conducted interviews, one-on-one and in groups. We've had dialogue meetings, we've had workshops, we've organized walkabouts in the city to assess accessibility, benches, lighting, overall facilities. And we even trained a group of 65-year-olds and 85-year-olds to use iPads and make movies for us, to really visualize opportunities and challenges. I really believe in visualizing because I think you can write as many reports and strategies as you want, but there's something about these little bits of film that show you how difficult it might be to get on and off public transport or how uneven the streets are. So we have some really lovely films. We have about 40 different films of both good and bad examples of how we're doing in terms of age friendliness. Now, cross-sectoral collaboration is one of the most important aspects for a city to become age-friendly, but it really is also the most challenging. I've tried many different ways to engage the other departments and really worked hard on this. And I have to say here, it's not even enough if we have money for projects. You really need to engage them, learn about their priorities, and make it worthwhile for them to contribute to their priorities and plans as well. And it's taken quite some time, but now we have some really good collaborations going, especially with the urban planning department, transport and environment, culture, sports, and volunteerism. One of the best ones we have is our collaboration with a big project we have in Oslo now to make the whole city centre car-free, so a barrier-free city. That's a really good collaboration. So the baseline assessment, the political support, civic participation, and cross-sectoral collaboration have all resulted in an action plan for age-friendly Oslo that was adopted in December last year. Now let's see. Sorry about this. So we were inspired by the 8 domains defined by the WHO, which you saw previously in Hugh Manfred's presentation as well. But we got together with older people in the city and the different city departments, and we kind of made them our own. So these are our 6 main areas. So in outdoor areas and physical activities, it's about making the city centre and our 15 districts more accessible. So we're thinking general accessibility of outdoor areas, more benches, safety, better lighting, more public toilets, and facilitate physical activities in parks and recreational areas. Now, universal design is a focus in all our initiatives, and all departments and agencies in the city of Oslo have to adhere to the universal design principles. So that's really principles going through all our different areas. We have developed an age-friendly transport model, which is a more door-to-door solution. If you see the photo on the slide of the pink buses, that's one of the smaller buses that we have as an age-friendly transport. You can call or you can book via an app. It's a low-cost offer, and you can bring a friend. And the drivers have received special training. We are piloting it in one district now, the largest district in the city, and we plan to make it citywide. It's become incredibly popular. Our oldest passenger is 103, and she hasn't been out of her house for years. So it's a really successful model. And we see that the biggest segment is between 76 and 92 years, the age bracket, which is really good. In terms of housing, we try, of course, to refurbish existing housing options, create new solutions as well, trying out different cohabitation and communes to enhance independence. We also have more and more places where students live together with older people. So just really trying to think more innovatively and move away from the institutions. We're very institutionalized in terms of older people-centered care in Norway. Social participation. Within this, we have work, culture, and volunteerism. And we have great collaboration with our cultural institutions, both in terms of accessibility, physical layout, and the programs and contents. I have to say that we just had a free Philharmonic concert for 67 plus in Oslo to start the collaboration with the Philharmonic Orchestra. And we had 1,400 people coming, a full house. And there were a lot of wheelchairs, walkers, crutches. It was fantastic to see. So we do a lot of outreach with the cultural institutions, both making sure that people can come to the cultural institutions, but also that we bring culture out to where people are, daycare centers, etc. We focus on creating more and more opportunities for volunteerism so that, you know, we can have older people helping older people, that they feel a sense of purpose and of by being useful after the age of 67 when they retire as well. And they really want to become engaged, but we need to have good structures for them to become engaged. In terms of communication and participation, we try to bridge the gap, the digital gap, by providing training in the use of smart technology, but also to have analog solutions. We still need that for some time to come. And that means having written information material, still focusing on meeting places. We have created a debate series with the Oslo Met University on all these different 6 domains to raise awareness, highlight existing research, and encourage new research, and also to create a platform for the public to become informed and engaged in age-friendly Oslo. So in these debates, we have researchers, we have politicians, we have NGOs and businesses. They're streamed, so people follow from all over the country. It's been really a great experience as well. In terms of health and social services, they have its own strategies and plans, and it's not really the focus in the age-friendly project. The only exception is that we work a lot during winter to make roads and city districts accessible, so falls prevention, because we have a great challenge here with snow and ice. So, for example, we hand out bags of sand and shoe wear with spikes. So in the period between 2015 and 2017, we had pilot districts. So Nordre Aker, which is the pilot district on the slide, was the main one. And then we had 2 follow districts. They developed and tested 21 different age-friendly initiatives across all the different domains. And we now use these experience in our action plan and to scale up these initiatives citywide. Because I think I can speak for a lot of the different cities. We all have many, many pilots. That's not the problem. The problem and the challenge is to scale them up. But we're in full scale-up mode now. When we had our action plan adopted, we invited all the 15 districts to a competition. And we had an allocated budget as well. So we now have 4 districts that have a leading role with more responsibilities and funding to implement initiatives and to mentor other districts. And we have 5 follow districts, and the main pilot district is now the mentor for all. And eventually we want all the 15 districts engaged. So the contest or the competition really encouraged city districts to implement initiatives from the action plan according to certain criteria, so a certain structure, but also a lot of flexibility. And I have to say the districts have really enjoyed this way of working and have been really creative. So it's been really fun to see. So since Oslo joined the global network, we've helped Trondheim become a member in Norway, and we've been in contact with a lot of different cities regarding the age-friendly work, and also the ministries, departments and agencies, because I really wanted to have more and more members in Norway. It was also a great help for me, but also for the national dialogue, that I was on the secondment at WHO in 2016. And just 2 weeks ago, there was a national reform launched for the aging population. And there's a whole chapter on making Norway an age-friendly country and to have a national network. At Nordic level, I've done very much the same thing as I've done in Oslo. To really go out, speak at conferences, establish meeting places and workshops to encourage the Nordic Council of Ministers to be the host for a Nordic network, because there are more and more Nordic cities joining the network as well. And the launch of this network, after a lot of lobbying, and also helped by a report from the Nordic Welfare Centre, which is available in English, and I'm happy to forward this, by the way. After all this, a network will be launched in October this year, a Nordic network. Oslo is also a member of a European network of cities, and I became engaged in this network, and it's called Eurocities. So Eurocities is the network of major European cities. The members are the elected local and municipal governments of major European cities. It consists of local governments of over 140 of Europe's largest cities and over 45 partner cities. And between them, they govern 130 million citizens across 39 countries. They have 6 thematic forums and a wide range of working groups, projects, activities, and events. And they really offer a great platform for sharing knowledge and exchanging ideas. And they influence and work with the EU institutions. And the objective is really also to get local governments highlighted and speaking with the local governments and cities, and get them engaged in a multi-level governance structure, and to shape the opinions of Brussels stakeholders. Very often cities feel that we're talked about, but we're not talked with. So the EU institutions don't really talk with the cities, just about us. And Eurocities is really trying to change that. I established a working group within this network, Eurocities, on urban aging. And this was very much in order to create a European exchange and learning platforms for cities working to become age-friendly. So, sorry. This is about what we do here is it's cities working together on urban aging. And most of the cities use the WHO age-friendly city framework. And the most active members are the ones that you see on the slide here. Oslo is the chair, Amsterdam is the vice chair. We have Gothenburg, Manchester, Frankfurt, Vienna, Nantes, Barcelona, Ghent, Utrecht, Tilburg, Hengelo, Leeds, Stockholm, Madrid, Düsseldorf, and Edinburgh. But these are the cities that come to all the physical meetings and are very much involved. But we do have a number of cities as well who follow us and come to some of our meetings. But you can see it's a really wide range of cities and a really great variety of different best practices as well. So there are thematic forums and working groups, and what we want to do is increase collaboration and knowledge exchange between the cities in order to strengthen the voice of cities. And how we do this is by meeting at a regular basis. We do site visits, and these site visits, we choose topics, and then cities host meetings, and we then go on site visits, see best practices, and share experiences within the relevant areas. We do joint project proposals and collaborations, and we also try and reach out to other networks. We've had WHO attend several meetings. We've had the OECD there as well. So some members are also in a region recognized by the European Innovation Partnership on Active and Healthy Aging. That's the acronym there, as innovative regions. And we're also part of the D4 Action Group on Age-Friendly Environments. I'll explain to you a bit what this is. So the European Innovation Partnership in Active and Healthy Aging is an initiative that was launched by the European Commission to foster innovation and digital transformation in the field of active and healthy aging. So it's really a partnership to strengthen research and innovation, and it brings together a lot of different actors. It was established in 2011, and it focuses on active and healthy aging for the people of Europe. Now, the regions that are recognized by these partnerships are called reference sites, and there are regions, cities, integrated hospitals or care organizations that focus on a comprehensive innovation-based approach to active and healthy aging. So they have to provide information on their different practices, they evaluate, they share a lot of their great examples. The D4 Action Group on age-friendly environments, what we've done in Eurocities is that we've created a mapping of 15 different cities where we say something about what percentage the aging population is, what our main challenges are, what our priorities, plans and initiatives. And this is what I'm more than happy to share this as well, should anyone be interested in this mapping. It gives you a great overview of 15 different European cities and what we're doing. The Covenant on Demographic Change, a lot of the members in the working group are also part of the Covenant on Demographic Change. This gathers all local, regional and national authorities and other stakeholders that commit to cooperate and implement evidence-based solutions to support active and healthy aging. We also work together with the Covenant. They work together with the WH Global Network. They work together with the Europe Healthy City Network and the partnership. And if you're a member here, you're also an automatic member of the Global Network of Age-Friendly Cities and Communities if you want. I mentioned that we work together on projects, and we will now start in 2018 a targeted analysis, adapting European cities to population aging. And getting back to what Manfred was saying before, we have a lot of great knowledge about how to establish a structure for creating an age-friendly cities. A lot of great different practices, but we really don't have a lot of knowledge as to the effect of all these different initiatives. And that's what we're really hoping that we will get now through this targeted analysis. So what this project aims to do is to be a multi-method investigation into the effectiveness of policies to develop age-friendly cities and approaches that support, for example, aging in place in 8 different European cities and regions. We want to look at urban aging experiences relating to social exclusion, employment and skills, spatial inequality, emerging health and care innovation, transnational migration, and the impact of geographical, social and economic mobility. And the project is aligned with the EU policy on active and healthy aging, and it really tries to address a gap in the knowledge about how different European cities are adapting to the age-friendly work. So the cities part of this EU project is Manchester, Amsterdam, Oslo, Nantes in France, Barcelona, Gothenburg, Hengelo, Saragossa. So quite a different mix of cities. So at a later stage, when we've completed this project, I'll be more than happy to share that with you as well. So I think all the cities do really great and interesting work within the age-friendly framework. And in the last 3 years, these areas are some of the areas where we have a lot of exciting initiatives. I think cities have really developed a lot of different ways to communicate with and engage the older population. And exactly which examples from which cities would be a long list to go through. But if someone is interested in that, I'll be more than happy to share this with you afterwards via email. City planning, focusing on developing some pilot districts together with older people, where you put urban planners and older people together, have really created some great spaces in different cities. And some cities are even fortunate enough to have the age-friendly work located in the city planning office. Transport, there's a lot of good examples, both in terms of developing age-friendly transport like its own solution, but also enhancing general public transport in terms of the prices, accessibility, etc. Pilot districts, it's a very much used methodology by most cities because it's very difficult to have a citywide approach from the start. Some start with one district. Amsterdam, for example, have started with 3 different districts. So different cities choose different ways of doing this. But the main thing is starting small and then going bigger. Social participation is key. And in terms of making sure that people engage socially to prevent isolation and loneliness, I think culture really stands out as something that all cities are really good at and creative in terms of how they work with the cultural institutions to make them more age-friendly, to anything from the physical layout to the programs and contents. Generational projects, so creating spaces for generations to come together, anything from entrepreneurial projects to physical activities such as generation games and volunteering. There's a lot of really good examples on generational contact and projects as well. And Age-Friendly Cities is all about the sharing and learning from each other. And I am in no doubt that this is really the right way to create environments that are good to grow old in. And we need this holistic cross-sectoral approach. And it's been great so far. I've really learned a lot from the other cities. The key here is to always be willing to learn and to share. And I find that all the cities that I'm in contact with are very keen to share and to learn. And so it's been great so far, and I'm really looking forward to engaging more and more cities as well in the network so that we can all have access to more and more good practices. That was it from me, I think.
Thank you so much, Anne. That was a fabulous presentation. At this point, I just want to invite everyone who's on the webinar to ask questions or provide comment. We have about 5 to 10 minutes to do so, so feel free to send your questions in and I will read them out. But in the meantime, I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit more about the value of the mentorship between cities that you mentioned in Norway. I think that mentorship is something that has been a focus of the IFA recently, and I'm curious about how that works and what you've seen from that.
I missed the first part. I'm very sorry.
No, that's okay. I was talking about the mentorship between cities in Norway that you had mentioned. So, and just talking a little bit more about the value of that, of mentorship and what you've seen from that.
The mentorship.
Yes.
Oh yeah. In the city districts in Oslo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Well, we had, yeah, no, that's okay. So we had one major district. Actually, we had a competition this time as well. We asked all the districts, did they want to be the first pilot district for age-friendly Oslo? And it's the largest district with 50,000 inhabitants, came forward and said, yep, we want to try this. So they received a budget, and we were very careful in recruiting a project manager. And we really had a great experience in terms of local forces wanting to engage. So we had local businesses, we had local volunteers, we had the city district itself and the administration really geared up to make the best pilot possible. And they created 21 different initiatives, which is quite impressive because it's across all the different domains. But they had sustainability and transferability as the main principle. So they really were creating initiatives that we could then use to make citywide later and to align with the regular services. And that was the main focus. And I think that was part of the reason why it was very successful as well. And that we can now use these experiences and implement the initiatives in the other city districts.
Great, thank you. I have one other question. This question says, I would very much like to know more about the EU study of effectiveness in 8 cities if the presenter has any info to share.
Well, we haven't started yet. So we were just told a few weeks ago that we were awarded this project. It's called the ESPON, so it's a targeted analysis. There is now a call out for researchers to come together. And these 8 different cities will have a group of researchers coming to do site visits in our different cities, looking at the different initiatives that we're doing in terms of becoming age-friendly, and then evaluating the effectiveness of these. But we just got awarded the project. Now the researchers have to be, there's a call out for research groups, and then we'll start in the autumn. So this is really us wanting to come together, see the effectiveness of the different initiatives, and it really worked well with a call from the ESPON EU project administration. But we're at the very, very beginning, so I'll be able to tell you more in maybe, say, a year or a year and a half.
Great, we'll have to have a follow-up webinar then. The next question is, I noticed a lot of initiatives and networks are organized. What would be the best idea to align all initiatives that are going on in Europe so that we can all learn and share?
Oh, well, I think that the database in the age-friendly world is a really good place to share and to learn from each other. Because I think at the moment we have a lot of different resources. So I think maybe we need to have an effort and motivate more cities to put a lot of best practices in that global database and make that become the main global database for age-friendly practices. Because it's a bit, I mean, I use it at the moment, but I also use my urban aging working group to gain different examples from the different cities. But I think it would be really good because the global database is global. So we get a lot of different and exciting examples from the rest of the world as well. But I think we need to maybe have a campaign, get more cities to become involved. Maybe they don't have to be members of the global network to give examples. But I really think we need to try and motivate cities to deliver and provide examples in the one database that will then become the most go-to database of best practices.
Absolutely. Okay, I think we have time for one more question. So for both Dr. Huber and Anne, how do you engage with older people who are most isolated and harder to reach, is the question.
How we reach out to them?
Yes.
Well, as Manfred said, that is really the great challenge. We try to use the older people who are really engaged already. So the ones that we are in communication with in our think tanks, in our workshops, who are very outgoing, but who then can reach out to the more vulnerable groups. So we try and engage, our resource, we call them age-friendly ambassadors. So we try and use them to reach out to the more vulnerable groups. We also want to work more with the home care services, see if we can get more collaborations going with them. But we have a great challenge here because people are very private and we have to be very careful on intruding on that privacy as well. So it's a bit of a balance. They might not want to be approached all the time. They're fiercely private and we have to strike a balance. But so far we're trying through our age-friendly ambassadors and see how we can reach them. But I don't have the answer to that. That is still on it's a very big item on my to-do list.
Dr. Huber, do you have a thought on that?
We have some examples, even from the poorer countries of our region, where older people help other older peoples to even fill gaps in basic services. For example, showing them how to do blood pressure measurements and or control their blood sugar. And that's even recognized, and that's of course important by the healthcare system. So in that, if you offer services that are missing, you can also reach out to many. And the most important certainly is that an age-friendly environment empowers everybody. So it empowers older people to look, who are my neighbors? How are they doing? And this is something, it's a bit almost an end effect of having an age-friendly environment.
Absolutely. Okay, I think unfortunately we're out of time, so I will have to end the questions for today. There were a lot of questions, so I think there will be contact information provided for those who would like to follow up with either of the presenters, and IFA will also be providing the presentations and the recording. So just on behalf of the IFA, I'd like to thank both presenters. I think you provided some really important information. And we really appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
End of the day,
Thank
rest of the day.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye. Take care.